I love the movie The Blind Side. I just identified with this big black protagonist. Like him, I've often felt lost. I remember something Neil Strauss, the author, said about rock stars, that they all have this glint in their eye that can mesmerize thousands, and they're all incapable of taking care of themselves. I kind of feel like that. I remember once running up to Young Israel of Century City one Shabbos afternoon. It was cold and drizzly, and I didn't have a coat. And my friend saw me and says, "We'll have to get you a coat." Now, I could have got myself a coat, but I'm not practical in that way. I don't think of getting a coat and putting it on when it's cold and wet outside. I kind of tend to have a disparaging view of myself and of everyone else, and not the type to drape myself in a warm coat or others on a cold day. And the football coach in this movie says most kids from bad situations can't wait to be violent. That comes out on the field. I guess my violence is restricted to verbal violence. Sometimes I can't wait to tear someone's head off, particularly when it's a religious leader abusing his authority. I was a pretty lost kid, but I liked living at Pacific Union College in the Napa Valley. And I got to finish 8th grade because of the intervention of a friend's mother. My father was called to Washington, D.C. in late 1979 to defend his controversial theological views, so that left half of 8th grade. What was I going to do? Well, one Sabbath morning, this kid in my class became friendly with me for the first time, and his mother had asked him to ask me if I wanted to stay with their family to finish 8th grade, and the kid said, "No way, you ask him," because he was afraid of my cutting remarks. So I was brought back to this family for Sabbath lunch, and the mom asked if I'd like to stay with them. I got very excited. I said, yes. This family kind of adopted me for the next few years. My older siblings are 8 to 10 years older than me, so I've kind of grown up as an only child. They left home early. This family had kids my own age, and I got to feel what it was like to be part of a normal family. I'm not normal. I'm not good at taking care of myself. I remember before starting UCLA in 1988, I drove down a month early. I had no place to stay. I didn't want to spend money on a hotel, so I just lived out of my car for a month and slept in the bushes beside this softball field at UCLA. A normal person would have made sure they had arrangements for a place to sleep. When I moved back to Los Angeles in 1994, I lived out of my car for several months. I had a friend at UCLA, a professor, who was going to invite me to live with him, but he found me kind of sloppy and irresponsible. I could have gotten a job in an apartment, but preferred to live out of my car and go do my own thing. I've always been convinced that I'll be a big success one day and be able to find people who could do a better job taking care of me than I can do for myself. And that way I just try to concentrate on what I do best. Anyway, the way that people look at the protagonist in this movie, The Blind Side, the Michael O'Hare character, it's kind of how they've looked at me. I remember this scene early in the movie where Sandra Bullock asks Michael why he's headed for the school gym late at night, and he says because it's warm. I think that's why I've always liked attention, because it's warm. Like Big Mike, I was a lousy student in school, but I was blessed with some teachers who turned me on. I was a lousy Jew, but I was blessed with some rabbis who turned me on. And Sandra Bullock character asked Michael, "Do you have any place to stay tonight?" And he nods his head. She said, "Don't you dare lie to me." And then he shakes his head. She takes him home, she makes him all warm and comfy, and I love that. Like Michael O'Hare, I've always had the good sense to surround myself with good people, even when I didn't know quite how to interact with them. I don't enjoy therapy anymore. It used to be my favorite time of the week, but that's changed. I used to charge into therapy, eager to regale my therapist with my adventures. But I don't tell so many stories anymore. I find myself spending most of my therapy kind of swimming in icky emotional waters, like sticky, oily waters filled with bugs. I remember once watching these hot chicks wrestling in Jell-O. That's kind of what my therapy feels like these days, like I'm wrestling in Jell-O.